Flags in the corner over here for those of you who can't see it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. If you have phones, if you could either turn them off or silence them, that would be much appreciated. Also, a reminder, individuals who want to address the board, there are participation slips over there. Chris Molesky is waving his hand. Do that again, Chris, so people can see. If you wish to address the board, there is a specific spot in the agenda for you so the board can hear everything that you have to say. Thank you very much for your cooperation in that. Callie, roll call, please.
John Hedges.
Here.
Cheryl Armstrong. Here. Heidi Larson.
Here.
Ashley Overton.
Here.
Erica Weaver.
Here.
Jacob Bucklaw.
Here.
Dale Ryder.
Here. Item 2, reception of visitors. We will start with the agenda visitors, recognition of the Mattoon Middle School and High School fall athletics and activities.
I'll start with Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Arnold.
So we appreciate the board's opportunity to showcase our students and their amazing talents and abilities. And so tonight we want to start off, we've got a few groups. I want to start off with the Mattoon Middle School Wildcat baseball team. If you guys would please come up. There you go. Please come up, Wildcat baseball team. And we've got coached by Casey Alexander, Craig Capitosi, and Jeremy George.
Good evening. Give you a quick rundown of how we did this school year. Okay. So last year we went 2-11. So a year ago we got together for an 8th grade party, pizza party. Got the 8th graders together, asked them what their goal was. So their goal was to go make the state. After 2-11, I kind of questioned that, right? So, but the deal was, we told them as soon as they show up, August 5th, we'll be pushing them, getting the most we could out of them, and they performed. So we ended up 17-3, 15-2. 15-2 in the regular season. First game of playoffs, regional, we beat Mount Zion 2-1 in the semifinals. Then, of course, we beat Charleston 5-0 in the championship. Then, in the sectional championship, we took the lead early. They got ahead of us 5-2. We hit 2 home runs to tie for top of the 5th. Then they scored the bottom of the 7th and walked off. So we lost the sectional championship. Super proud of these guys. They did awesome. Thank the coaches. So they stepped up and made it happen. So I'm going to introduce some of the players. 8th graders, Grayson Brandt. Basketball, right? So Memphis Howell. Owen Nolte. Ty Lytle. Raylan Holt. Daniel LaBarbara. Evan Shanks. Hudson Golden. Knox Hayes. Cruz Roderick. Max McLean. Blaze Edwards. Jackson Howell. Caden Hahn. That's our 14 8th graders. So our 7th graders were Brian Perdomo, Braden House, Matt Lampy, Grant Tiger, Trevor Butler, and 3 6th graders, Braxton Roberts, Hank Gosh, J.W. Deepholz. So, 22 is most I've ever kept, and to be honest with you, it was hard to just keep 22. Probably could have kept 25. They had a lot of skill, and hopefully, continuing on, they do big things in high school. So, thank you, appreciate it.
Next up, we've got some middle school music department updates, and we have District 5 ILMEA student honors, and I'm going to have Mrs. Stephanie Kinkley come up along with her crew. Also, she was unable to be here tonight, but Miss Cindy Zimballen is our band instructor, and so she's going to real quickly introduce these outstanding individuals.
So the students we have here tonight, they auditioned and were accepted into the District 5 Honor Band and Choir, which is a big achievement. The audition is not easy, and they're judged amongst hundreds of students from all around this area. And this year we had 10 students make it in, which last year we had 3. So really proud to see a big crew representing the school this year. So in 7th grade band, we have Zoe Konauer, Landon Brown, and Kennedy Spraker. In 7th grade choir, we have Bren Kinkley, Taylor Nelson, and Riley Nelson. In 8th grade band, we have Rachel Catt and Alice Cisna. In 8th grade choir, we have Lexi Bailey Birch and Avery Peters. And with those auditions, the students are graded in multiple different components. They have to prepare 2 different songs as well as scales and, oh goodness, triads, yes, that they have to record. And we had 2 students who scored in the 99th percentile in one of their categories, which is a near perfect or perfect score. And those 2 students are Ren Kinkley and Riley Nelson. So they will be performing next Saturday on the campus of EIU.
Wonderful. Great job, everyone. Couple of other things here. Just wanted to also share that Metro School Band placed 4th in junior high bands at the Oblong Spectacular Festival Parade. Percussion placed 4th in their category, and Color Guard placed 2nd in their category. Percussion actually, I believe, won Most Outstanding at the Newton Fall Festival Parade as well. And if you want to get a real taste of what these individuals and their peers are made of, please just make sure that you come out on December 10th for our concert at the middle school. They'll be showcasing their talents there as well too. Ms. Sundown wasn't able to be here tonight, but she wanted to express her gratitude and just immense pleasure that she has of leading the band. She's super proud of the growth that they've shown throughout the year as well too. So congratulations, everyone. Okay, and next, cross-country qualifier, Mr. Fryman, if you would come up, please. Got a quick introduction here. He is joined by Camden Hedges, and he's going to share a little bit about his successful year.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold, and thank you, board, for having us here today to recognize our student athletes. This is Cameron Hedges. He had one goal whenever he came to cross country in 6th grade, and that was to qualify for the state meet. He came up short his 6th and 7th grade year, but he came back his 8th grade year with the same determination that he had the prior 2 years. I ran into him on Sunday mornings, and he just got done with 10-mile runs. His grit and determination far exceeds what I would expect from a middle schooler. Cameron's a better person than he is an athlete, and being a stellar athlete, that should say something. Cameron qualified, ran at the state meet, and did really well. It wasn't what he wanted, but he qualified, and that was his goal. He accomplished it. Congratulations.
And last but certainly not least, Wildcat State golf qualifiers. So we got Mr. Austin Frank here.
Thank you. Austin Frank, volunteer assistant girls golf coach. And very proud of these girls this year. I'm going to introduce the 3 girls we had on the team this year. We had 8th graders, Belle Powers, 8th grader, Mia Cornwell, and 7th grader, Madison Frank. Big improvement. Our team grew by 3 times. Last year we just had 1 girl. This year we had 3. So good improvement there. We had 2 girls this year, Madison Frank and Belle Powers, who both qualified for state. And both girls had a very tough sectional, made it out of sectionals. Both girls did excellent at state, kept their heads up, kept positive attitudes all day. Very proud of both of them. And I don't remember where Belle placed at sectionals. I think she finished in 4th place at sectionals. Very strong sectionals for Belle. And Madison had a very strong round at state. She shot an 87 this year. 24 stroke improvement off of state performance last year. And just very proud of all the girls for coming out and golfing.
Mr. Duckett.
All right, good evening. I have our high school athletics for fall. We have 3 individuals who are state qualifiers in different sports. Our first, and yeah, not Miss Daniels, she did not qualify. So I'm first going to welcome up Will Poland. So Will, come on up. I asked Will if he wanted to talk. He didn't really want to talk about himself. So Will is state qualifier in golf. Very proud of that. Will is actually a 2-sport state qualifier. So he qualified in tennis as well as golf this season. We expect high things from him as a senior. I'm going to let him quickly share, which he's not going to be real confident here, but what his plans are for the future as a senior coming from Matthew High School. So go ahead, we'll jump in.
All right, so my plans, or I don't have plans right now. I have no clue where I'm going and a very slight clue of what I'm going to do. That's about it for me.
Will is also one of our very rambunctious Team Massive student leaders as well. So very proud of the work that he does in building school spirit. Proud of what he does on the court, but then also in the gym and at the football field as well as we're cheering on the Green Wave. So very thankful for him and wish him nothing but the best as he moves on from Matthew High School. So congratulations. Our next athlete is Blair Powers, girls golfer. All right, so Blair is going to get your notebooks out because Blair had a heck of a season. So Blair's going to run down some stage for you on what her accomplishments were. Again, very proud of her. We'll touch base with you in my question.
I was a polo conference champ. I won regionals. I got 3rd at sectionals, and then I got 11th at state.
Modest there. I'm going to say she won almost every tournament that we had throughout the season. So I think there was maybe 1 second place finish, but everything else, it was a tie. Okay, so every other tournament that we had, she was medalist. So that's big things. So Blair is a big name in Central Illinois girls golf, and I know she puts in the effort in the summers. If she puts the effort in the winters too, when most of us have put our golf clubs away. She's out at the country club. She's working on her game, and very proud of her and what she will do in the future. So Blair, what's the future plans? You didn't tell us that, so go ahead.
I'm like Will. Yeah, I'm undecided.
Are you going to golf somewhere? Maybe? Is that the hope? Is that the goal? Yeah, she's more sure. She's going to golf somewhere because she needs to, because she's a good player. Good player. So very proud of Blair. Good luck in your future plans. And last but not least, we have Kaylin Ryan, girls cross country. So Kaylin, come on up, and Coach Bush here, come on up. You guys look at now, nobody likes to talk in front of the microphone. Kaylin, do you want to share? Tell us about your season. Will you do that real quick? Or Coach, you do it. Coach, you do it.
Okay, this is Kaylin Ryan. My name is Kate Bushu. This is my 2nd year coaching cross country. I'm the boys and girls coach, and this year was very successful for Kaylin and the girls team. So just a quick recap on the season as the girls team as a whole. We got 2nd at Shelbyville. third at Cumberland, and first at the Charleston Invite. So overall, had a fantastic season. We also had two other individual qualifiers to the sectional, Courtney Cassidy and Bree Armstrong, as well as Kaylin Ryan. Kaylin destroyed our regional meet. She got second on our home course, which put her in a position to go to sectional. And she got 16th at sectional and made it to state. She was the 6th individual qualifier, and went on to state last weekend and got 62nd with a really nice PR. So she has
Here's the good news. Kayla doesn't have to have plans because she's a junior, so we got her coming back for cross country again next year. So we look forward to that. Thank you for all the effort and the miles that you put in the rain, in the wind. It is not something that I would say 95%, 98% of people out here would do, something, the time, effort, and sweat, and equity that you put into your sport. So thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for leading the Green Wave in our cross-country efforts, all right? So one more round of applause for Kayla. We do also have band and choir here at Mattoon High School. However, they are still moving through their season. They have districts and state coming up, so we will recognize them at our winter student recognition. I will take one last second to invite everybody. Friday is our winter Meet the Green Wave, so we just have just a short time that happens between our fall and winter season. So cross country, Kaylin, our last athlete, just wrapped up on Saturday, and we're going to get ready to start rolling on Friday with Meet the Green Wave. So if you come out, we're kind of doing our big gym opening. We will have a spaghetti dinner here in the cafeteria, so we want you to come out and we'll recognize our fall all conference athletes. We'll recognize our teams, and we'll recognize our middle school winter athletes as well. So big night on Friday night. If you don't have anything else going on, we're going to feed you for free, so come out, have some spaghetti. We start at 5:30 serving. Games, scrimmages start at 6. We should be out here around 8:20, somewhere around in there. So if you don't have anything else to do, bring your family, we'll feed you, and let's get ready to cheer on the Green Wave in the winter season. All right, so thank you so much, and I'm out of here.
Before we leave the category of sports, now would be a good time to publicly thank Dustin Stolfus and his people with regards to the renovation of the gymnasium across the hallway here. After the meeting, I would invite all of you to drift over there and take a look at it. It is eye-popping. So well done, absolutely, by those people. No, I don't need that. Can you hear me? Yeah, we're good. Okay. Next up, item 2.2, the non-agenda visitors. We have 4 public speakers. I will call these in the order that they were put in front of me. First, Rebecca Kimball.
Go ahead. Get a little fancy.
All right, hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Kimball, I'm formerly Rebecca Bolston, and I currently teach at Franklin Preschool. I've been a teacher for 8 years at the Mattoon School District. Last month, Jordan Coleman stepped in front of you and talked to you, and he really inspired me to do the same because our stories are very similar. I also graduated from Mattoon, and it was really important for me to come back and teach for the district that provided me with so much. When all of my peers were moving on to bigger and better things, I was questioned on why I stayed, and I stayed because this is my bigger and better thing. I stayed in Mattoon because I saw all the great things that were happening here, and I saw it 8 years ago when I started teaching, and I saw it 12 years ago when I graduated. When I was writing this, I was having a hard time deciding on how I wanted to spend my 3 minutes. Part of me wants to stand in front of the board and let you know how embarrassed I am to sit here month after month and listen to this show. But I think you guys already know that, so I want to be a little bit more productive. I want to start by saying that I do appreciate each and every one of you for taking on this incredible responsibility. I think that each of you are here for a reason and you bring something valuable to Mattoon. I need to know something personally. However, the current state of the board has many teachers, including myself, feeling very overwhelmed and underappreciated. There's been a lot of talk about academic scores, especially math lately, so I wanted to share some insight from an actual classroom. So picture this, I wanted to teach a math lesson in a large group setting, so I bring all my kids to the carpet, but I can't teach because no one can focus, because little Timmy's stomach can't stop growling, because it's a Monday and he hasn't eaten all weekend. So later on in the day, I decided to pull a small group to try and teach the same lesson, but now Susie can't keep her head up off the table because she was up all night because she told me mom and dad were fighting. That's also a true story. So then I know little Johnny really needs a snack lesson, so I want to work on with him one-on-one later at the end of the day. But when I approach him, I notice he's had an accident because even though he's 5 and moving on to kindergarten in a few months, no one outside of our school has taken time to work with him on potty training. So I decided that this lesson's gonna have to wait till tomorrow, but tomorrow brings more challenges. You're all here tonight because you care about your child's education, and unfortunately, the reality is that you're the minority. I saw the post floating around on Facebook the other day, and I thought it was really appropriate for this. It said, all the data in the world cannot accurately measure the love and heartbreak that goes into a single day of teaching children whose needs go beyond the scope of the curriculum. This is what we're dealing with every day, and I promise you, when a student walks into my room, they feel loved, they feel secure, and they feel safe. We have created an environment filled with respect, which is the opposite of what these meetings have been filled with lately. And I can assure you that my students would never speak to each other the way you all speak to each other, and they're 4 and 5. They're 4 and 5 years old. So, we need to do better. I'm pulling my weight. Are you?
Second up, Chad Larson.
You gotta give me a minute.
I'm holding.
Hi, good evening. Full disclosure again, I'm Chad Larson. My wife is Dr. Heidi Larson, she's on the board. For the 3rd year in a row, I've produced data on the Illinois report card looking at our conference, the Apollo Conference. And for the 3rd year in a row, we are at the bottom of the conference academically. This year, 20% of our students are proficient in English, 14% are proficient in math. Yet we spend the most in the conference compared to those other schools. $50 million budget, we spend more than any other school on our education. And I want to make it, I've said this again and again and again, but I want to make it perfectly clear. This is not a teacher issue, but this is a problem. And it's a problem that we need to address. Let me share I'm not in education. I'm in business, right? I look at it, return on investment, where our tax dollar money is going. But I think of the SAT score like baseball. I don't think Casey and Kathy Young are here. Great, congratulations, great story, great success. I look at our academics like a baseball game. Baseball game has 9 innings. Our academics has 12 innings. But at the end of the 12th inning, you are judged on whether you win or unfortunately you lose. That's baseball. And Casey's story about the last inning, that happens. But that's what's happening to us academically. See, only 14% of our students are winning at math. If you look at winning as being proficient on a subject, only 14% of our kids win at math, and 20% English. And science is a little better, but still way below state averages. So I'm gonna share just another piece of perspective. And again, I'm not talking about athletics. This isn't the point. But our varsity football record the last 3 years is 5-22. That's a 22% winning percentage. Not blaming kids, don't say that I'm blaming kids. A lot of them are my friends, my kids' friends, and so forth. That is a better average than we have in math and English. So just let that sink in. We all know that needs improvement, but math and English is even more critical. This is the most critical issue that we have in the district, is our academic performance.
You know what, I got 10 seconds, so I'm probably gonna just wrap it up right there. But we have a culture problem. And it's time to win again. We need to work on our academics for our children. Thank you.
Third on our list of 4 is Roy Blackburn.
All right. First, I'd like to start off with thanking everyone for being here. School board, thank you for being here. Parents, community members who don't have children involved, and especially educators, thank you for being here. Thanks for showing up meeting after meeting. I just want to bring up the budget concern I have. And I know LIFT's a hot button issue. I'm a very big believer in LIFT. Worked out for my son, very great. He's working at Hydro Gear. He got introduced to them by Mr. Compton. And he's a success story, you know. However, I'm not sure the money is adding up. So whenever LIFT was voted on, there was a couple meetings before that where it was sold as the funding comes from the state and the funding follows the student. I don't know if that's happening, if it's $1,000 a semester for out of district students. Doesn't seem like it if they're spending 40% of their day there, say, you would think 40% of their funding would go to the LIFT building. I don't know if that's true, but that just makes sense to me. Whenever it was sold, there's 7 floors at the LIFT building. All very interesting programs. I've been there. I spoke to the students, how much they've learned, how important it is to them. And I believe the vast majority of them will succeed in whatever they do. However, whenever it was sold that there'd be 60 students per floor. There'd be such a demand, there'd be 420 students, and that there would be a lottery. And the majority of the students there are our students, and I'm not sure if the funding follows them. I would like some answers on that if you could, if you have it tonight or next meeting. But that's how it was sold. So the fact that we have them paying $1,000 a semester, we're not willing to revisit the budget, I think it's irresponsible. I think it needs to be done. Again, I think LIFT is a success. I think all the people who work there are involved with it. It's amazing. I know you're voting for the levy tonight. I'm just asking you to vote responsibly on it. We're going to need all the money anyway. We're going to need 4.99. So I get it. But I would just like some answers if you have them. I think the community deserves that. It's their tax dollars paying for any overages or underages. So thank you for your time. Thanks again for being here.
And last, Monica Genta.
Hi, my name is Monica Genta. I am an educator. I'm also a local business owner. But most importantly tonight, I am somebody who loves digging into data. And so I was very excited when the Illinois Report Card recently released its data. And I just want to address a reminder that school data doesn't actually mean anything unless we understand the names behind the numbers. Our students in our community are more than facts and figures, and the teachers in our district are more than scores and statistics. We have 3,003 students that we know by name and 208 teachers that we know by name, and all of them have stories that don't always translate directly into the stats that are released by this report card. Each number is actually a real person with unique story and background that plays a huge role in these numbers. And I think that we are at a point in this community where we have to stop reducing education to data points and start focusing on the people behind the data. Because when we do that, we see the full picture. So I feel like right now is a good time to do that because we have already had incredible celebrations of kids. We heard kids by name. We heard their incredible growth with sports, with music, with extracurriculars. So what I want to do is celebrate the data that I saw when I looked at the report card because it's very different than the infographic that's been circulating on Facebook. I believe that schools should have a whole lot more clapping than critiquing, and it feels like there's a lot of critiquing right now. So let's start some clapping. The data that I'm going to present comes directly from the Illinois report card that was issued by the Illinois State Board of Education. Riddle Elementary, because I want to call these by name, Riddle Elementary school had 13.6 points of growth on the ELA IAR, and that is 11 points higher than the state average. Riddle Elementary also had 12.6 points growth on the math AIR, which is 14 points more than the state average. Call another one by name. Williams showed growth in math and beat the state average in both ELA and math. Matthew Middle School showed growth in both ELA and math and beat the state average in both. Are these data points part of a huge collection of celebrations? Yes. Are there data points that prove that we are behind state averages in other categories? Also, yes. But my point here tonight is to showcase some of the absolutely incredible work that our schools have achieved. That deserves the spotlight for at least a second, because the kids and the staff deserve to know that they are backed by the board and our community. The thing that motivates us as humans is when we clap before we critique, because that gives staff and students the confidence and the love that they need to move the needle a little each day. There are 180 days in a school year, and those days turn into weeks, and weeks into quarters, quarters into semesters, and semesters into years. And wouldn't it be awesome if this time next year, when the Illinois report card gets released, that we aren't debating over test scores, but rather dialoguing about all of the awesome things that our 3,003 students and 218 teachers have done when they walk into their schools every single day with the goal to grow. Thank you.
All right, that completes item 2 on the agenda. Let's move on to item 3. This is the consent agenda, requires board action. On the consent agenda is the following items. 3.1, approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of October 8th of this year and the executive session meeting of the same date. Under financial payment of bills, that includes the presentation of the bills for approval, the monthly financial reports by fund, the year-to-date budget report. Item 3.3, the monthly enrollment report. Item 3.4, approval of Title I parental involvement policy. Item 3.5, approval of the Mattoon High School overnight trip. We have one. It's the Mattoon High School JROTC Show Me Shootout and Color Guard Challenge, December 13th and 14th in Ozark, Missouri. Item 3.6, approval to submit private, state, and federal grants for the 25-26 school year. And finally, item 3.7, approval of the Freedom of Information report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion from Erica Weaver. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Cheryl Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none. Callie?
Armstrong,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Reichner.
Yes. Item 4, reports and recommendations of the business manager. Mr. Gear.
New contacts, so I gotta have readers now, so back and forth. All right, so 4.1, not easy getting old. Board action to approve the 2024 certificate of tax levy for MCUSD number 2. Again, tenant property tax levies must be on display for a month. They were at the October 8th board meeting. Again, the levy is the amount the district asks for. The extension is how much the county allows us to receive, and we levy in dollars, not in tax rates. Next slide. Thank you. All right. Again, I think this was on the last month's slideshow. So the process, the Board of Education certifies the tax levy to the county clerk. The clerk then assigns the appropriate tax rates to the operating funds, and then the county clerk processes the tax bills. and sends them to the district the following year. So what we're asking for now is actually for FY '26. We are at FY '25 right now, so it's a year and a half behind or ahead, whatever way you want to look at it. All right. This is just a comparison. We talked about school report cards. This is the latest one out. You can kind of see this breaks it down by our revenues. The left-hand set of graphs is our local district. The right is the state average. You can see the light green on the far left, that is our local property taxes. So it makes up 35% of our revenue that we receive. The state average is 58% comes from local property taxes. That's a year behind. Again, this actual fiscal year, I think we're down around 33% of local taxes make up our revenue. So you can see the trend, it slowly is decreasing. That has a lot to do with EBF and the state raising our EBF and some federal grants you can see out to the far right. But our local tax base pays for about 33% of this year's fiscal budget. So just a comparison between us and the state and so on. All right. And there's our breakdown for this year. Like I said, 32.9% of our revenue is going to come from local property taxes in the year that we're currently in. That's the levy we did last fall. Okay. We are a PTEL district, property tax extension limitation law. I think it was passed or voted on by the taxpayers and voters in 2004. We passed this to be a PTEL district. So you can see CPI. So basically it says that our tax rates can raise by CPI or a maximum of 4.99%, whatever is the lowest amount. We can't go above 4.99 without having truth in taxation hearing. So last year, this is determined in December of the previous year. So December of 23, CPI was 3.40. So the numbers that I presented at the board meeting in October were based on 3.40. That did not account for new growth or new construction in our city limits or no, I'm saying that our district limits. So if we just did the 3.4, we wouldn't capture any of the taxes on the new construction. So what we have done in the past, and what I'm going to ask us to continue to do, is we always ask for 4.99, and we let the county decide how much new construction there is. Right now, it's an estimate of about $4.2 million. The county will figure that out and get an exact number, and that will be added upon the 3.4%. So since it is an estimate, we ask for 4.99. The county gets us that. We won't get 4.99%, but the county's got to put us somewhere in 4.99, but it's 3.49 on what we currently have as property in the district. So what our tax base is always been. So that's that slide. So our levy recommendation is the education fund, $13 million. We talked about last month. We are going to levy for zero in the leasing because we no longer lease any technology or special education, $425,000. O&M, $1.3 million. Transportation, $1.655 million. Social Security and IMRF, we lowered from last year because we're getting a fund balance growth in that one, and we need to bring that down because our IMRF and Social Security expenses are less than what was levied for in the past, and our life safety is $19,000 for a total of $17,699,000. And so the team recommends the approval of the 2024 tax levy.
Questions of Mr. Gear from the board?
I have a question, Ryan.
Yes.
Let me see if I just understand you. So essentially, in the fall or December, we had 3.49, but it didn't 40, but it didn't capture the growth that the county is expecting. So
Not the growth, new construction.
new construction.
Yeah.
So if we ask for 4.9, whatever that new construction is, they're going to add it.
We're going to get in between 3.4 and 4.99. The difference will just be the new construction. And I mean, I can go through a bunch of numbers. I can take the 4.2% and I can give what they tell us EAV growth is suspected to be, and just be an estimate on my part, which might be high, might be low. This just allows us to capture exactly what it should be.
So they make the decision, we don't.
Right. We're agreeing on 3.4% increase on what we currently have, and then they're going to give us, add in the new construction.
Other questions from board members? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the levy as presented by Mr. Gear?
Yes.
Oh, second.
Motion by Jake Uphoff, second by Erica Weaver. Any discussion on the motion? Callan?
Larson,
No.
Overton,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
Thank you very much. 4.2, board action to approve a resolution abating the taxes for our ARBs, our alternate revenue bonds from 2021. The ARBs were actually taken out in 2013 when we had a state funding crisis and we needed to take out a loan basically to make payroll. Long before I was in this job, at the time the board made a pledge to the community to make the ARB payment through existing revenue, so not to add it to the tax base. So EBF to pay off this ARB. It was refinanced in 2021 when the interest rates were very, very low. And we saved probably around $450,000 over the life of the bonds by refinancing in 2021. So in order to maintain the pledge, not to pass this on to the property taxpayers, we need to abate these taxes. Or abate this amount. So I'm asking for a resolution to abate $382,597.50 this year. So that would not be added on to the tax rolls of the county. And so we recommend this resolution.
Questions from Mr. Gear on the presentation? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion to approve the resolution abating the taxes as presented by Mr. Gear. Motion is by John Hedges, second by Erica Weaver. Discussion on the motion? Kelly?
Overton,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
Thank you. Last one, and hopefully the last time I have to ask you for these ever. All right, board action to approve the bid from Reliable Mechanical for $566,791 for chiller. And this was also going to include 2 boilers at Mattoon Middle School. We had 4 people show up to the bid opening last Wednesday. Reliable Mechanical LLC was the best bid. And by state law, we go with the best bid. Administrative team recommends that we approve this going forward.
Questions for Mr. Gear?
Mr. Gear, is there a minimum amount of bids that you have to get to? Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask where the funding of this one is coming from?
Perfect, yeah, so the funding for this will be sales, 1% sales tax money, and it will be probably, we're hoping this can be done next summer. I would bet next fall, so it would be FY '26 sales tax, 1% sales tax money.
Other questions?
Good question.
Do we have a motion then to accept the bid from Reliable Mechanical, LLC for the chiller and boilers at Mattoon Middle School?
So moved.
Cheryl Armstrong moves. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second by John Hedges. Discussion on the motion? Kelly?
Weaver,
Yes.
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Gear.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Scosi?
The board had before them the November personnel report. Started here, Eileen Denning is retiring at the end of the 24-25 school year. And we have some certified appointments. Melissa Ewing with elementary school as a teacher, longtime teacher in our district, moved out to Florida, is coming back. So we're excited to have her back, fourth grade teacher, effective December 9th, 2024. Caleb Bradley, substitute teacher, Abby Brown, substitute teacher, Catherine Saunders, substitute teacher. Classified resignations, Pat C. Croy resigns Transportation Service Center bus aide, effective November 1st, 2024. Keely Casey resigns Wayland Elementary School Title I paraprofessional, effective November 1st, 2024. Tracy Ritchie resigns William Elementary School supervisor, effective immediately. Continuing with classified resignations, Bailey Sherrills resigns Mattoon High School custodian, effective October 23rd, 2024. Demi Worknick resigns Transportation Service Center bus aide, effective October 16th, 2024. Classified appointments, Jennifer Bollinger, Williams Elementary School supervisor, effective immediately. Jimmy Bryant, home visitor, effective July 1, 2025, as part of our Birth to 3 program. Marcy Waddell, Mattoon Middle School paraprofessional, effective January 6, 2025. Kelly Williamson as Franklin Preschool, 101 para, effective immediately. Molly Wynn, Williams Elementary School, Title 1 parapro, effective immediately. Lyle Wilderman as Mattoon High School custodian, effective immediately. Rebecca Eaton, substitute bus aide, effective immediately. Erica Hagee, substitute building security supervisor, effective immediately. Mary Poland, recommended substitute secretary in the district, effective immediately. Nicholas Stonebringer, substitute custodian, effective immediately. Patsy Tungern, a substitute nurse, effective immediately. Kristen Watson, recommended substitute secretary, effective immediately. And Daniel Werdnick as substitute bus aide, effective October 16th, 2024. The rest, from Nikki Dees down to Heather Worth, recommended as volunteers, effective immediately. Continuing on. Extracurricular resignations. Casey Alexander has resigned as Mattoon Middle School head boys baseball coach, effective October 10th, 2024. He's had a great season. Will be missed and appreciate all he's done. Chloe Pruitt has resigned as Mattoon Middle School girls 8th grade track coach, effective immediately. Recommending Jessica Meadows as Mattoon Middle School 6th grade boys track coach, effective immediately. And Jessica Meadows also as Mattoon Middle School 6th grade volleyball coach, effective immediately. Asia Morrison recommending as Mattoon High School freshman girls basketball coach, effective immediately. And Hannah Elsie as Mattoon Middle School 7th grade boys track coach, effective immediately. There is also an addendum.
Yep, gotcha.
All right. Going down to 5.1D, classified appointments. Christine Darling is Transportation Service Center bus aide, effective for route 23, effective immediately. Andrew McGee, Mattoon High School custodian, effective immediately. Patsy Croy, substitute bus aide, effective immediately. Stephen Stanley, substitute paraprofessional, effective immediately. And lastly, Michelle Wilson is resigning as Mattoon Middle School student council advisor, effective November 7th, 2024. Are there any questions? See none, then I want to ask that the board accept the personnel report as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion from Ashley Overton, second.
Second.
Second from Erica Weaver. Any discussion on the report? If not, Callie?
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Scosi. Item number 6, reports and recommendations of the superintendent. Mr. Condren.
Yeah, well, this may be a quick agenda item. I do want to take this opportunity and would welcome the audience here in sharing our appreciation for our board members. They often spend time outside of what you see at district meetings and spend multiple hours, I'm sure, looking over the information that's shared from our team to them. To be prepared, to be able to cast their vote and listen to folks out in our community. So I'd be remiss in not congratulating each and every one for what they do. It can be very thankless, but I would encourage you to join me in thanking our board members, as November 15th, this Friday, is the day designated to recognize our board members. So please join me in thanking them all.
Item number 7, reports and recommendations of other district personnel. Dr. Hill.
Thank you very much. I'm so inspired, Mrs. Kinkley. I'm going to take the mic off the stand. It's my karaoke moment. Okay, I'm so excited about this presentation. We've been looking forward to sharing some news with the community. And so before we get into it, I want to invite everyone who's here just to take a moment. And I want you to think about your why. Because we are all choosing to spend our time here tonight, right? For different reasons, different perspectives, different purposes, different just personal convictions about why you're here, but we're all here. And this is a lot of ours, because strong schools build strong communities, and we love this community. And we love our kids and our staff, and we're thankful for our board. And when people Google Mattoon, Illinois, we want them to see that the schools are a pillar of strength and a reason to move here, and that we all treat each other with the kindness and respect that we're teaching in kids as young as 3. Actually, a little smaller than that, little years, 6 weeks, right? So please, can you take a moment where you do that? And as you do, I'm gonna ask my friends Rachel and Rachel, they're gonna come around with a little QR code paper, because 3 minutes is not a ton of time. And sometimes you hear things in a presentation and you're like, oh, I didn't even ask about that. And unfortunately, time is closed. And a whole month is a long ways to wait. So we're gonna send around this QR code, and I wanna invite you, if you have questions, comments, if you wanna sit down and meet and talk. I had some great meetings over the last month between October, November with community members who just wanna know what's going on, or they were unclear about some things, and I would invite, we would love that. I would love that. Our team would love that. So while Rachel passed this around, is anybody willing to share their why? Board members, anybody? Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you doing 4 years of community service at long meetings and reading board packets that are pages and pages?
You don't have to, but.
Jake.
I'll share mine.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You don't mind. Here you go.
Ladies first.
All right, yeah, and it's interesting, I was asked to be a board member before coming here, and in 2013, I started a mentoring program as a sabbatical at Eastern called Bionic. And most of my colleagues in the Ivy Towers go and visit amazing places, and they do some kind of research project that really writes a book, publishes, does something. And I remember coming home and telling Chad I wanted to start a mentoring program. He says, that sounds like a long-term investment. And I said, it is, because I want to change young people's lives. And this isn't my hometown, I'm not from Mattoon, but it is my 3 children's home. And I knew that if you give young people an opportunity to serve, they do it with excellence. And 15 and 16-year-olds who volunteer by coming to a training in the summer, they give up a summer day. Most of us adults would not give up a vacation day. And so they give up a summer day to come learn how to take care of their peers. And how do they help other kids who come to Mattoon High School be successful, right, based on their journey. And why all of that got started for me is because in middle school, my parents divorced, and I became a low-income kid. And my public education gave me the opportunity to pursue my dreams. And today, as a psychologist and as a professor, I help create other young people's lives at EIU to pursue their dreams, to go out and be school counselors, to receive their PhD, to do what it is that they want to do in life. And so education is really close to my heart. I understand the importance of it, and I know that students need this foundation in order to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve in life. And so that's why I decided to serve here at Mattoon on the school board, and it's been a true honor to be part of it. And so thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi.
Go ahead, Jake.
I appreciate the question. It's a surprise question, but it's one that I think about a lot as a newer member on the board. Whenever I got appointed to be on the board, I got that question for about 2 months straight. Why did you do that? And why did you want to do that? And I think that question is loaded. You know, when you see somebody in public, that's kind of hard to answer in a couple of sentences. But I can try to do my best now. I've told people multiple times that I have an irrational passion for the green and gold, and it started as my time in high school, and it hasn't wavered yet. I think this is an important role for our community because strong schools do make a strong community. I want our community to win, and I know that when a community works together, a community will win together. And I'm just trying to do my small part as 1/7 of this board to be a part of that win for our community. As far as to why I wanted to be a board member and why I'm here tonight, I can try to get into a little bit of specifics to that. I wasn't planning on sharing it, obviously, but given the opportunity, I probably will. I graduated from Mattoon High School in 2019, and then I went to the University of Illinois and obtained a bachelor's degree there, and then returned home and started farming with my dad and uncle. We farm south of town, west of Lakeland College, and I travel south Route 45 every day. And one day, I was driving a John Deere, and I looked across the lane, in the westbound lane, and I saw a billboard, and it said, Mattoon Schools, last in math, last in English, last in science. And I got honked at by the person behind me because I'm staring at it, reading it, and I'm swerving over into one lane. I thought, well, that can't be right. So I started looking into it, and I started and really diving into that. And I understand what the billboard meant at the time, referring to the Apollo conference. And then I started watching the school board meetings. And a couple of our speakers this evening alluded to what I saw when I started watching the school board meetings. The toxicity, the negativity, the lack of respect, the lack of maturity that I saw from my school and its board, that I hold a lot of pride and confidence in, was something that I thought needed changed. And so the question of why I'm here would be to be the opposite of that, would be a light of not blind positivity, but appropriate amount of respect for the hard work that this district has done and will continue to do that made me the person that I am today.
I'm John Hedges. I've been on the board since 2019. In 2003, I graduated from Western Illinois University with a degree in law enforcement. That was always my goal, was to be a police officer. For those of you not familiar with law enforcement, it's a long process to get hired. From the day you take the written test to the day you get hired, it could be a year and a half, depending on where you place on that list. I needed a job that would be flexible enough that I could go take a police test on a minute's notice, and I found myself at Mattoon High School as a substitute teacher. I substituted at middle school, Williams, Riddle, Hawthorne, and Charleston School District as well. When I got hired as a police officer in 2005, remember I graduated in 2003, I had to sub for about a year and a half. And back then it wasn't a computer that called you, it was an actual person, and that actual person vetted you. And you had to take whatever job was given to you, and if you didn't take those jobs, you weren't going to get a call back. And those jobs put me in special education quite often, which was not as popular. Which is funny because I was in special education, indicator as well. That's where I went to school at, that's where I graduated from. I'm one of these statistics. According to these statistics, am a failure because I did not get good grades in high school, in middle school, in grade school. And I learned that during this process that those children have a lot to offer. And as I continued through my law enforcement career, I continued to sub. And when I went to the detective section, I could not sub any longer because it was an 8 to 4 job. During that time period, I learned there was an opening at the school board, and I applied for it because I wanted to be a part of this. I want to be a voice for the children in this community who have been overlooked. I'm here to tell you right now, this town has a lot of low income. It has a lot of heartache. I could take you, I had a ride along with me the other night. His eyes were wide open to what this community has that we don't like to talk about. It's there. And I'm getting a little bit off subject here, but I want all the teachers to know that I see you. I see you, I see the work you're doing, and you are appreciated. Please know it. Thanks.
I'll be quick. My why. Cicely Tyson said that when you have children, you have an obligation to make the world better. And so I'm a mom of 3. And more often than not, I've been judged as an unmarried mom of 3 or as someone who comes from Chicago. I've never lived in the city, but you know, it is what it is. Or for being an African-American woman. And before I graduated, for not having a college degree. And the majority of our students in our community and our families have a unique story that is never told, which is what you said, Ms. Jensen. People don't get into that part of it. They don't take the time to know who someone is before they make a judgment call. So I wanted to be a voice that talked about who people were before you get to the other stuff. The last thing I tell people is what I do for a living. I tell them who I am as a person. And I wanted someone to be here to see people for who they are before we talk about what they do or where they live. Because children are suffering, and I'm not saying that just as a glossy term. In every role that I've had, either as a substitute teacher, as a public defender, I get to see what most people don't get to see. And those kids need someone who's going to say, I see you, and I hear you, and I am here for you. What do you need? Learn what someone needs before you tell them how to get there. Everybody's not trying to do the same thing. And I just wanted to have a different voice and a different representation so that people can see that and know that it's a reality. When my children were in middle school and I asked what they were doing for Black History Month, the district doesn't really do anything. Okay. But they said, Erica, if you would like to do something, we can do that. And I went into the classroom and I sat there with those kids. Because it's not just important for my children to see it, it's important for every child to see it. So we can stop acting like everybody's so different. I promise you, people told me they had never met a Black person until they met me. And they didn't know what to say. I told them to start with hello. That's why I wanted to be on the board. Because I'm not a figment of people's imagination. I'm not an anomaly, at least not by birth. But by some other things, I've done some amazing things in my life, and I'm not even gonna share that, because to me, that's not the most important part. What's important is that just see the person next to you. How can you have a conversation if you can't even see your person? So that's why I did it.
Thank you for the question, Dr. Hill. I am answering this, but I'm gonna answer it for 3 people.
Okay.
So, like Mr. Uphoff, I am a Mattoon boy. I was born and raised here. After I graduated from Mattoon High School, I attended and graduated from Eastern University and then law school, and then went on to a career in public service before coming home and actually using the law license that I spent so much money on so many years ago getting to see if it actually could help me make a living. Aside from my mom and dad and my church family, this district was the most prominent pillar for me in what was to come. That includes my 2 boys. My oldest, Jonathan Ryder, is a captain in the U.S. Army. He's an Army Ranger and a West Point graduate. My youngest is Benjamin Ryder. He's a lieutenant in the United States Navy. He's currently involved in aviation training. He's on path to become a carrier-based F-18 or F-35 pilot sometime in the next couple of years. If they were sitting in this chair, they would say exactly the same thing about how special this district was to them and how vital it was to them in what was to come. Serving on a board like this is the smallest measure of payback that is possible for me and my family. Thank you. Thanks for the question, Dr.
I don't want to skip anybody, but I appreciate you taking the time to do that, because what I heard in every response is because you care, you want the school district to succeed, and that means we want the same things, right? We might not always agree on the exact path to get there, but that's okay. Those different ideas and respectful discourse really helps us get new ideas. And so I think when we work together to honor all of those whys, this is what's going to happen. We're going to continue to get improved results because we're not divided, we're not divisive, we're not arguing, we're working together. And so I want to thank you for reminding us that this is service. You guys are serving, and your why. And let's keep that kind of in mind as we walk through this presentation tonight. So thanks for taking the time to do that. So an overview for what we're going to talk about. we're going to talk about who we're serving. So in the school report card last year, who's represented by that information? To Ms. Jensen's point, what are the names and the numbers? Just a general overview of what is the school report card, how do we get the metrics we're going to be looking at? Then we'll talk about how we perform each school individually, and then how are we continuing to improve from there. So some celebrations and also some, let's go over these and continue working. The QR code's up here too, if anybody would like to scan that before we head in. So section 1 is just an overview. So, Ms. Jensen was correct. In the 23-24 school year, we had 3,003 students who had the opportunity to teach, and 3,003 families that we had the opportunity to serve. And that's amazing. That is amazing. That's why strong schools matter, right? Like, that's touching a lot of our community. What else is represented on this slide is some enrollment trends. So you can see we're slightly down from the year before. And also some cohort sizes. So what's really interesting is we've got this group of second graders who, they're huge. We're like, what's this class going to do for us, right? So this is the distribution of our students. And as you're looking at our scores, and as we're talking about our results, these are the students in grades 3 through 11 whose data is represented. Because our pre-K through second grade is not standardized, but no just meet standardized assessments. Neither do our 12th graders. This data illustrates trends in number of students who are eligible for reduced price lunches, free lunches, they live in subsidized housing, or their families receive public aid in the 23-24 school year. So what you'll notice is 66% of our students are represented in that subgroup, which means 2 out of 3 students are living with economic challenges and the risk factors that come with that. That's all that means, right? We believe one of our core paradigms is everyone has genius and everyone can learn. And we recognize that the students represented in this low-income subgroup have different challenges than the students who are not. So 2 things can be true, right? So you'll notice too in the dark green, that represents the state average. So in Mattoon School District, of our 3,000 students, 2 out of 3 are low income, and in the state, that's a little under 50%. The other thing you'll notice on this slide is just the way that data has changed since the pandemic. So we're seeing an increase in the number of students and families who are living with those challenges. The next slide shows our homeless population. These are students who do not have permanent or adequate homes. There's also state comparison included. So 3% of students in our district are considered homeless. That is above the state average. And I will also point out that the trend data here is too tiny for friends in the back. This will be posted so you guys can all look at it. It has doubled in 3 years. The number of students and families who have home insecurity. This slide shows the students' attendance. So what's happening? How many are coming? How often are they coming? Who is coming? Who's not coming? So what you'll first notice is our average daily attendance. That means like on any random day, 91% of those 3,000 students are here. That's our average. It is really close to the state. That's about state average. This middle chart here talks about chronic absenteeism. And so something that you might not know is that chronic absenteeism is just missing school for any reason. You can be sick, you can have an excused absence, but if you miss 10% of the school year, which sounds like a lot, it's 18 days, you're considered chronically absent. Some of these other factors play into that, right? Having high mobility plays into that, which you'll see sickness, really anything. There's a series of contributing factors. So our chronic absenteeism is 29%. That's down from 31% last year. It is above the state average. The state average is 26. Chronic truancy is it was really the only thing we used to address. You might remember this if you've been in district a long time. We used to send a 10-day letter when kids had missed 10 days, but it was only 10 unexcused days, right? So that was the old process. we're gonna talk about the interventions we have in place and how robust they are. It starts at 3 now, 3 absences for any reason, and then 5, and then 7, and then 10, and then 13, and then 15, before we get to the 18 chronic absenteeism. But chronic truancy is 5% of the school year, and that's without an excuse. So if mom forgets to call, or we say we're gonna be gone, but it's for a reason that's not excused, that's what's represented in that number. Notably, that is below the state average. So that's 16%. Interim data is also included. Note that in 2021, how high that was. It was a district target because it was really high. So our efforts over the last 4 years have taken that from 35% to 16% last year. This data illustrates students who receive special education services in the 23-24 school year. State data is also included here, so you can see that we have 17.4% of our students who are eligible for specialized instruction for recognized disability category, and then there's a distribution of what those categories look like and what the comparison is to state average. So in our district, of the students who have IEPs, 6.5% of those are for autism, compared to 12% the state. Developmental delay is 15%. That's higher than the state, but I also want to note that developmental delay is an eligibility category that goes away by age 9. We've got to figure out a different category, and that's because we're serving so many amazing preschoolers. The preschoolers busting at the seams. So we're addressing issues and providing early intervention, which is helping kids and families find all the supports and strategies that they need. Emotional disability category, we're 8.7%, and the state average is 5. So those are students who have emotional disabilities, and we provide services on a large continuum for that, but it is larger than the state average. Specific learning disabilities, reading comprehension, and reading fluency, math, we're at 29.7%. Just slightly below state average, 31. Speech and language, 23%. Intellectual disability, that used to be called cognitive disability, 4%. And then other health impairment, which tends to be medical types of eligibilities. So students who need assistance because they have anxiety or other disorders fall into that category. We're at 10.5%, and the state average is 13. And you'll notice that average has held pretty steady in the state at 13%. Sometimes we hear about that increasing. In terms of eligibility, it's held constant since post-pandemic. So here's why that matters. This kind of is echoing a lot of what people said tonight. I think as all of us serve, we're really lucky to be in these positions. Let's keep all of our students at the forefront of our mind, and all of our community, because we're here to serve all of them, and that's who they were last year. This year looks a little bit different. Our enrollments are a little bit different. Our grade level compositions are a little bit different, but it's important to know who before what. So are there any questions on the demographic data before I move into the next part? Great. So this next section is just going to do a review of the report card. I had the opportunity to sit down with most of you to talk through this, but just for anybody who's watching or a quick review, we're going to talk about how the schools are graded, how we get a report card score. So there's 2 different measurement systems, one for kindergarten through 8th grade and one for 9th through 12th. This is small, I'll apologize. 75% of our overall report card score comes from academic indicators. 25% comes from more culture and climate indicators. And together that gives us 100%, and on subsequent slides it's going to be like points. We're going to say 100 points because it's easier to understand that way. Let's talk about what the academic indicators are. So 7.5% of our total score, or 7.5 points, come from how many students are proficient in English language arts as measured by the IAR in grades 3 through 8. So if they hit a certain score, they got a 90%, they're proficient. So we get 7.5 points for that, for our overall proficiency. Another 7.5 for math, and 5 for science. So that's the proficiency scores. We also get 5% for something called English language learner progress to proficiency. In our district, we don't have a big enough subgroup for that, so that category comes out. So those points are distributed through the others. These two large chunks here are English language arts growth and math growth. The reason they're the largest component of the school report card is because growth measures what's happening in the classroom. Those are classroom effects, classroom and school effects. Meaning, how far can you take someone from their starting point to where the ending point is, or where the IAR is? How big of a change can you influence in the classroom? So that's 50%, 25 and 25. And that altogether is the 75 points for academics. The culture side of things is chronic absenteeism, so that's 20%. And that makes sense, right? Because if kids aren't in schools, then they aren't able to do these other things as well. We have to be with them to build strong relationships, to help move them, to help grow their academic proficiency and also their behavior, all their responsibility, all the things that we're trying to teach in schools. So chronic absenteeism is 20 points or 20%. And then finally, a climate survey. All schools are required to do the 5 Essentials survey once a year, and we get points for completion of that survey. And students are involved in the upper grade levels, but otherwise it's teachers and all staff and families. So that's how Will Williams and the middle school get their points. That diagram. 75-25 is also true in the case of high school, but the way we get those points is very different. So at the high school level, currently there is no growth metric because there's one test, and it's the SAT junior year. That's the only one that counts for this report card. Starting this year, they're adding a growth metric, yet to be determined how. We talked about that today at academic systems meeting, but for the same reasons we talked about in the middle school and elementary schools, because growth measures school level effectiveness. They're adding growth at the high school. But for now, for this report I was reading off, there's no growth. This large chunk here, so again, blue is academic, yellow is more effective or cultural climate stuff. This big chunk is graduation rate. So 50%, 50 points are derived from our graduation rate. English language arts proficiency, so how many kids hit that ISTE proficiency target on SAT, that's 7.5%. Math SAT, 7.5%, and science, 5%. So 7.5 points, 7.5 points, 5 points out of the 100, or that proficiency level at 11th grade. And then this last one again is English language learner progress to proficiency. Same holds true here. We don't have that enough of a subgroup of those students to get the points for that. So these 5 in the other academic areas. In the high school, the school quality and student success indicators include chronic absenteeism again, but you'll notice it's smaller, it's 10 points instead of 20. Climate survey, and then 9th graders on track to graduate, which has to do with credit, how many credits they earn and their attendance. So that's how our 4 main schools earn their designation. So all these points are added up. And then schools across the state of Illinois are run kind of a distribution. So it's what's the lowest number of points someone earned, all the way to the highest number of points a school earned. And then we're sorted into categories. The top 10% of those scores statewide earn an exemplary designation. Commendable designation means that there were no student groups who performed in the lowest 5% comparison to the lowest Title I schools, and your high school graduation rate is higher than 67%. Targeted, one or more student groups is performing at or below that lowest 5% cutoff, and we've had schools in this. In fact, last year, Riddle Elementary was a targeted school. The year prior, the middle school was targeted for subgroup achievement. Comprehensive and intensive relate to schools who have been targeted and don't improve. They get additional supports, and if they're comprehensive and don't improve, they get additional supports. And those are the kind of supports you don't really want to get. But we're very thankful. So that's the way that we get So the chart I showed you, the pie graph, is how we get the points, and then the points put you into a category. Questions from the board on any of that? Okay. So now we talk about how it happens, I want to talk about what, so, okay, great, what did we do, what did we get? The first two schools I'm going to talk about don't get a rating, but we're going to celebrate them anyway. And we're going to do it by starting with some amazing numbers. So this is Caden, who represents our little preschoolers over at Franklin. When Caden grows up, he wants to be a cow truck driver. So, we're already future planning here. And what we want the board to know about Caden is, first of all, he's adorable. He attends Franklin, he wants to be a cow truck driver, but he's also very polite. He is a recess helper. He's earned the Super Kid Award many times. And he loves his family, especially his sisters. So let's keep Caden in mind as we talk about the rest of Franklin. They don't get the same metrics, but I think it's important for you to know who's at Franklin, who our staff is serving. So at Franklin, the state average for chronic absenteeism is 26.3%, at Franklin it's 15%. Good job. The state enrollment is 1.9 million. Franklin's coming in at 211. Our homeless percent at Franklin is 4%, which is higher than the district average and also the state average. Our low income percentage at Franklin per state is 83%. 30% of our students have IEPs, and we have a 93% daily average attendance. So what are we working on this year at Franklin? The things that we're really aiming toward academically, this is the same three categories of goals for all of our schools: academic, leadership, and culture. Academic, they're working on increasing core reading by focusing on book enjoyment. Their goal is 14,000 books by the end of the year. As of today, sure what they say at the meeting, they passed the 4,000 mark. 4,826.
I don't quote me.
A lot of books. Okay, so that's the district's overall ELA goal, because early literacy exposure to books increases vocabulary, listening comprehension, and prepares them for kindergarten readiness. So we're aiming for a 5 on their core score there. And in math, we want the math core score to go from 4.07 also to a 5. You'll notice at Franklin, they keep track of kids counting and how high they can count. We have 2 kids who count to 100. Yeah, as of today. So if you haven't seen that, I would invite you to go look at their adorable scoreboards. In terms of culture, which we measure by the lag data of attendance, our goal is to decrease absenteeism from 15% to 10%. And then in leadership, which is student leadership behaviors, they're working to move, they're really focused on interpersonal relationships between kids, which is up to with emotional regulation and social skills. So their score, we're going to move from an 80 to an 85. It's of note that 80 is already considered effective. So congratulations, Franklin. Great job. So we have had lots of presentations on Let's See without one slide tonight. So the slide for Lift is what their goals are. How are they supporting the district's overall goal to increase ELA and math proficiency, decrease chronic absenteeism, and increase positive student behavior? So the way they're doing that is they are averaging the proficiency of all of the sending schools that send kids to their school. So we're going from 26 to 53% in ELA proficiency, and from 20.75 to 25% in math. Those anchors are district-wide. So our overall district goal is 50% in ELA and 25% in math. You can see their average attendance. They want to move from 89% to 93%, and then behavior. Last year, 81% of their students earned 0 to 1 disciplinary referrals, and that includes in their home school. We talk a lot about we want them to learn those behaviors and be leaders wherever they go. So we're using their sending school data for our school improvement plan as well. So now we're getting to the designations. So excited to congratulate all 4 of our schools on earning a commendable rating. That's fantastic. Lots to celebrate, and as late as 5 o'clock tonight, we were also still working on what we're going to continue moving that needle. So, but I just want to honor dedication of the teachers and administrators and the parents and the support staff members. We have a title paraprofessional on that team today who are so happy and also not satisfied. So let's talk about Mountain High School first. This is Connor. Connor is involved in our Chrome Depot classes. So you might not know this about the high school, but the high school offers computer maintenance, networking, and that's in addition to what we do at Lyft. And so Connor's one of our star students. When he graduates, he plans to enter the information technology field. And we're so proud of Connor. These are the other students that are representing Mountain High School. Just want to call out a few here. Our mobility is twice the state average at the high school. So what mobility and how it's defined is it means students move at least one time during the school year. So 15% of the kids who go to Mountain High School move at least once. Chronic absenteeism, 34%. Our truancy matches the state average. Last year's enrollment was 907 students, as reported on the October 1st enrollment report. Our dropout rate was above the state average by 0.3%. Homeless was also above the state average by 0.4%. Low income, 57%, with 12% of students in IEPs, which is down, which is great. We sometimes have a hard time with exit criteria, but they're doing a great job of that there. And then you'll notice attendance was at 89%. A quick reminder, we're going to look at their points. 50% came from graduation rate, 15% from SAT, and another 5% from science, which is a separate assessment. This year we're already one, it'll be the ACT, and then their school quality and success indicators. So their overall point total out of 100, they earned 63 points. And here's how it shows how we scored in each of those categories. So you can see because we didn't have that English language progress to proficiency, those 5 points here, it bumped some of our other academics. So instead of 7.5 ELA proficiency, our SAT proficiency rate counted as 8 points, or 8.04. So that all shows how we earned, what points we earned. Out of 8 points for ELA proficiency, we earned 3.85 and 2.82. Ninth grade on track, 5.82. Our graduation rate dipped last year, so we were down to 37 points. 37.9, almost 38 points, but that's a significant dip from our trend data. Chronic absenteeism, obviously a huge area for improvement, and the high school has been working very hard on that this year. Science proficiency, that test is changing. Like I said, it'll be ACT this year, and then the climate survey, we earned 5.73 out of the 6.67 points possible. So let's talk a little bit about where that ended up. This chart represents all of the high schools in the state of Illinois, their distribution of scores. So the very lowest amount of points, there were schools that earned 0 to 5 out of the 100, all the way up here, that schools that earned 95 to 100 of the total points. And here where Mountain High School fell, the total was 63 points. To be in the exemplary category this year, that was 91 points. So we had a bit of a gap here to make up for us to be able to move over that exemplary category. So we've been taking, like, what is it specifically? Where do we get the highest leverage to move to continue to improve our school? And that's where our school improvement plan comes in. This shows the total number of points, and as you can see, we came down from last year. Last year, our high school total points were 70. This year, 63. That is in large part almost wholly due to graduation rate. Here's our graduation rate trend since the 18-19 school year. You'll notice we've been hovering right around that 90. We had a dip here in the 21-22 school year. And then here with the graduating class from last year, we were down to 80.9%. This group was our freshmen during COVID, and we have analyzed this data a lot. We've spent a lot of time looking at what happened and why. A lot of the high school's current improvement planning and the efforts that they are doing every single day, with lots of team members, including many-time teachers, has put some robust systems in place, and we're projecting a graduation rate of 91% for this graduating class as of now. So we feel like comparisons are really important We think it is really valuable to compare how our students are doing to other schools. And so we mined all of the data, all of the schools in the state of Illinois, and filtered for schools that look like our school in terms of enrollment, how many kids, so that first slide that had mobility, IEP, all of that. So we looked for demographics along free reduced lunch, IEP percentage. We also looked for size and per pupil expenditures. That's really important. That's a really important component. So we're spending the same amount. So once you put in all those filtering categories, you get a list. These are the schools that look like you. These are the ones we need to be talking to if they're way ahead of us to say, what are you doing that we're not? Because it's apples to apples, right? Like, what is it that we can learn from each other? So if you look at this list, it's small, so I apologize to everyone, but like I said, you'll be able to look at this if you get the slide deck. This top chart here shows the schools plus our school who match in terms of who we're serving. And this is math. So out of the 6 schools, we were second with a proficiency rate of 20%. And out of the 6 schools, we were 4th in math with a proficiency rate of 13.8%. These are not numbers we're satisfied with. Fair? It's also fair to know that these 3 schools that are ahead of us, we can partner with them and ask, what is it that you're doing that we can learn from? And continue to use the strategies that the staff has in place because we are making improvements. It's going to take time. All that said, we do have an improvement goal. So the proficiency rates here are really interesting. We talked about this at the academic meeting tonight. So last year was the last year of SAT, this year is the first year of ACT. So being able to compare proficiency rates is hard because they're 2 different tests. And the state hasn't told us like what the cut score is going to be for ACT yet. So the numbers you see here, we are currently 49% proficient on SAT as measured by SAT. So SAT is a national test, right? And so they have a benchmark that's considered on track. And so we use that benchmark score, and 49% of our students, including 9th and 10th graders for PSAT and SAT, were on track. So we're moving that from 49 to 60 as measured by ACT. That's a stretch goal. The board probably saw in board notes, we included what our early fall results are on ACT. So there's a stretch goal. And then from 20 to 30 in math. And then we also have a graduation rate goal to 81% to 90%. And each of these goals has specific strategies, which I've listed on the subsequent slides, and I will spare you from reading all of them, but I will point out a few. And then for culture, which is attendance, and leadership, which is behavior, we're using a district and the school's positive incentive metrics, and we're trying to increase the number of students by 5%. Here are the specific supports. Board members can see this pretty well up close, and then we will post this on the website, I believe, after the board meeting, so the public will have an opportunity to look at it as well. But those are all the specific strategies that are happening at Mattoon High School. I will note that there are also consistently measures that everyone is doing, and these are the extra things on top of that. Let's look at the middle school. First, let's meet Landon. You already met him once tonight. Did he leave? Probably. He's great. He wants to be a vet. He's a 6th grader. He plans to attend the University of Illinois. So, Mr. Uphoff, maybe you can speak some words of encouragement. He wants to be a veterinarian. Here are the other students at Mattoon Middle School. You'll notice our mobility here is 9%. Chronic absenteeism was really the most challenging for us in the secondary space, in middle school and in high school. Truancy was below the state average. We still are tackling that. Enrollment last year was 615 as of the October 1st enrollment report. You can see our low income percentage at the middle school was 70%. 70%, that is high. And you look at the trend data, that is high. Our IEP percentage matched the state, and our attendance was 90%. So same metrics. Here we're looking at growth. So half of the middle school score, 25 points, come from how much they grew in ELA and how much they grew in math is another 25. And then remember, they get 7.5 points for how many kids pass the IAR, or the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. That proficiency, it's like a line, no matter where you start, it's the cut. And then 5 points for science. And then the same happens with English language learners' progress to proficiency. Then in the yellow, we have chronic absenteeism and the climate survey. So let's look at how the middle school did. Congratulations to Mattoon Middle School for their commendable rating and also their significant growth, which you will see on one of the upcoming slides. I really want to draw everyone's attention to the points earned in the ELA proficiency box. 8 out of 8. Yeah. That's amazing. Math proficiency, 5 out of 8. ELA growth, 21.88 out of the 26 total points. Math growth, 21 out of the total 26 points. And we're going to spend some time talking about growth here because it's really important to know the way that is calculated. So they look at the starting point for all students. Let's say they scored a 200. They look at every kid in the state who earned 200. And in the next year, they say, what was the average change? So if the average change for a 200 was like a 210, then that average growth is 10 points. And they're saying, did your students, Mattoon Middle School, grow more than 10 or less than 10? Our kids went way more than 10. So that's important because when proficiency rates are here, if we don't grow faster than the norm, that gap is always going to exist. But if our growth rate is faster than average, eventually we're going to hit that proficiency target. And that's what we're seeing. And that is a huge celebration. Here's how the middle school compared across the state. I just want to point out like how close we are here to that exemplary cutoff. I think we've got some fun, kind of like friendly goals going through the ranks where we're really hoping we have some exemplary schools to celebrate. We are very close and our plans are extremely robust. So I feel confident that if we keep working the plan, we'll get there. Here's the growth experience in 1 year. Last year's report card was 62 points. This year's 71. And this is, I want to point out, this slide is a little different than the high school's comparisons. So what you see here is how students at the middle school, how their growth compared to other students around the state. So we had 52 points for ELA growth and 57 for math. This is 50 and 49, I think. So above the state average in growth. That really matters. That really, really matters a lot. Because you saw our other metrics don't match the state, right? So these metrics are beating the state. That is what will gain us proficiency over time. And really more importantly than that, kids see their growth, and that is what builds confidence and engagement and pride, and that continued over time leads to success. Our comparison data here, these are the middle schools across the state that we've found that have matching size, demographics, IEP percentages, and per pupil expenditures. So we have 8 who match us, 8 besties. And if you notice, out of the 8, we are number 1 in ELA, and we are number 1 in math. And that didn't happen by accident. We had goals like this last year and a lot of robust families. I will say we were in 5th year, and if there were 7th, that's where we are now. So our goals at the middle school, again, you see the proficiency for ELA and proficiency for math, 53%, 25%. Culture goals, the middle school's going a little bit different route. Instead of just focusing on chronic absenteeism, they're focusing on increasing student engagement and activities because we know, research tells us, students who are engaged in their school are going to come more. So they're going to go from 49% of kids in something to 70%. And then we are increasing the number of students earning 0 to 1 office discipline referrals from 71% to 80%. Just think about that though. 71% of the kids last year at Mattoon Middle School earned 0 or 1 office discipline referral. That's amazing, right? So we can continue raising the bar, continue trying to support students and meeting those positive expectations. And we're doing all that with a variety of supports in attendance, behavior, academics, family, and staff supports, which you can look at here. This is Iris Kraft. She's a cute little first grader at Williams Elementary. When Iris grows up, she wants to be a police officer. So Mr. Hedges, you are her mentor. And she also has a dad, maybe mentoring her. Iris loves her family, she loves her mom, and she is a star student because she's like a recess helper. And she says she wants to do that so other kids can use the recess equipment. So we love little Iris. And all the kids who are represented by this data, mobility is 12% at Williams. Chronic absenteeism is lower than the state. So an interesting trend we're noticing is in our younger schools, we're seeing lower numbers of chronic absenteeism. As kids get older, we're starting to see that increase, and we're aware of that, and so our plans have been adjusted accordingly. Still, we want that to come down. Our goal is 10%. Chronic truancy, significantly lower than the state, and that is an improvement from last year. Enrollment was 706 last year. Low income, 67%. We are higher at IEPs with Williams with 21%. And then our attendance rate was 92%, average daily attendance. Congratulations to Williams for an overall score of 75 out of 100 points, 75.63. Those 0.63 were well earned. And so that is commendable. Once again, I want to point out our ELA proficiency, perfect score. Yeah, that's awesome. We have some kind of, I don't want to say easy, but we have some low-hanging fruit. Especially when you look at, we got 10 out of 20 points for chronic absenteeism. I bet if you walked up to just about any kid at Williams Elementary School and you asked them about their attendance goal, Brandy, am I right on this? Would they be able to say if they earned their potato head and what their goal is and how many days they've been here? Yeah, so everybody in the organization has a goal. Mr. Cronin has goals, we have goals, principals have goals, teachers have goals, every single little kid has goals. So around academics and around attendance and behavior. So here's where we fell at the elementary level at Williams. The exemplary cutoff here is still at 84, and we are 75.63. You think about some of that low-hanging fruit, the culture survey, the things like that we can easily improve, and we continue that high rate of growth. Totally attainable. Totally attainable. So proud, though. This is, yes, we want to keep growing, but this is so much to be proud of. Really, really good job. Here's their growth. From 71 last year to 75.63. And let's celebrate this for a second. The green represents the state's overall growth at the elementary level. And you can see that Williams outpaced the state in growth in both ELA and math. And as you look at some comparisons down here, we found 6 schools, and we're right in the middle of the pack. We're 3rd out of 6 when it comes to ELA proficiency and math proficiency. So what that tells us is we're growing, we're doing a good job growing, and there's some people we can probably learn from, and there's also some people probably learn from us too, right? We can share and collaborate. But again, these are the schools, there's Benton and Heron, Whiteside, Flora, and these are the ones that when we plug everything in, that match us. Here's what Williams is doing to continue to improve. Their proficiency goals are 55 and 30% for ELA and for math. Chronic absenteeism, we're getting down to 10. I feel very confident about that. And the number of students meeting behavioral expectations from 72% last year to 86% this year. And here are all the strategies. I had a list, and then late last week I was like, hey, you guys have anything you want to add to this? And I got like, I don't know how many pages of narrative of things that they are doing in every classroom. So I was like, well, we'll just add it all. So you guys can see all of the different strategies that are happening here. Some of them are echoed at Riddle, but some of them are a little bit different. So good job, Williams. Let's celebrate them. Congrats. Okay, Mr. Briggs. Picture for mom. Okay. All right, so this is Briggs. Briggs is a 4th grader. He wants to be a Cubs baseball player. Where are our Cubs fans? Anyone? Yeah, come on. Okay, he wants to be a Cubs baseball player. He's a leader on the student culture action team, and he helps as a teacher leader in the classroom. Our student action teams, our student leadership teams, plan a lot of the assemblies that you see, a lot of the family nights. They track data. They go around and update scoreboards so everybody knows how close we are to those academic goals, how close we are to the attendance goals and the behavior goals. And students like Briggs are doing all of that work. With their staff, with their teachers, but there's a lot of student engagement, and Briggs is one of our star leaders. Here's the rest of the student population at Riddle. You'll notice our enrollment last year was 563. So when we get to comparison, it's going to be different schools we're comparing to, and it was actually kind of hard to find schools that matched us. Our mobility 12%, chronic absenteeism 21, truancy 11 compared to 20. As we look at low income, this is our highest. Well, Franklin is our highest, but of our schools that are on a designation at 70.5%. That's the highest Riddle has been. 19% of the students at Riddle have IEPs, and they have an average daily attendance of 93%. So our total score at Riddle was 75.4 out of the 100, and there's lots of celebrations here, absolutely, but I think what we want to focus the most on, Ms. Jensen talked about this in her speech, is the ELA and the math growth. So I want to remind the board that last year we did this presentation, Riddle was targeted for subgroups of students who were underperforming. Because of the plans and the work that they did over the last calendar year, they're not only off that list, but their growth is so significant that they're knocking on the door of a commendable rating. Yeah. I hope that feels really good to all of you. It should. And again, stretch goal, I hope next year at this time we're here telling you that that's what happened. Take a look at the change though over a year. So last year, Riddle's total points were 58. This year, we're 75. So we went from. And here's why. This is why. This is what we talk about in all of our data meetings, in all of the PLCs, and every time teachers are getting together, we're talking about what strategies are moving the needle, what can we do to continue to grow. And as you can see, that is crazy growth. I mean, that is really, really high growth, outperforming the state significantly. And then when you look down here, the schools that match us, I was able to find 5 that had the same enrollment. I had to kind of widen enrollment a little bit because I couldn't find. So enrollment, the demographics, the percent of IEP, free reduced lunch, and then the per pupil expenditure piece, which matters. So here's where we fell. Out of the 5, we were second in ELA and third in math. In order to continue that progress, Kristen was just saying today, like, and Rachel, there's this pressure, like we have this growth, like, you gotta keep it going. You guys absolutely will. Like, our plans are even tighter this year. The alignment is even better. We got started earlier than we had in the past, so I have no doubt that we'll achieve these goals. So again, your targets are 50%, 25%, lowering chronic absenteeism to 10, and increasing the number of kids who are meeting those behavioral expectations to 85%. Here are the specific supports that are in place there, and you'll notice there are some hyperlinks, so you'll be able to click on some things, see some student pictures. All that to say, well done. Strong schools make strong communities, and we are doing the right work. The longer we keep doing the work and the better we work together, the better results we're going to continue to get. Some congratulations. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Questions from the board?
Yes, Erica.
And this is just a couple, and I can't remember if we talked about this or not. Did you find any correlation between, like, for the high school, right? So for housing insecurity and the drop in graduation rate, and I know we talked about it a little bit, I just don't remember, so I'm like making notes, but was there a correlation that you can discuss?
Yes, so what I'll say to that, some of those numbers are small enough that it would possibly be identifiable, but what I will say is there were some specific characteristics in that graduating class that the whole team feels contributed to some of that. However, it's our collective responsibility to make sure every student crosses the stage. And we are collectively committed to that. And I think the tracking the high school has in place with starting in 9th grade, really communicating designations as well. So if you aren't earning all your credits, you're not automatically called sophomore. And that matters, right? Like junior. And that matters because there are some things that go with those class ranks. And really empowering students to recognize where they are on their pathway to graduation and what's within their power to change. But to directly answer your question, it was an anomaly. There were some things that contributed to that. And there were some things that we missed that we could have done a better job of for ongoing support. And I mean we as a collective we. So
I think you answered everything else that I had a note for, so thank you for sitting down and going over this in advance.
Yeah.
And for this. And thank you to the teachers and the students, like, we can do a lot, but they have to do the work, so thank you.
any other questions?
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
So what I gathered from all this is that basically our growth is more than the state average. So what our teachers are doing, the plans that they have in place, it's working. And so we need to continue to stay on path and make improvements as we go along. So our growth will continue to grow and our numbers will continue to grow. And proficiency will follow.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and we get tighter and better and more aligned every year. But yeah, what we're doing is working. We need to do more of it, and we need just to keep at it. But yes.
Thank you, teachers. Doing great.
On the economic side of things, is it fair to say that we are exceeding the state average in growth, but also lower than the state average of expense per student than the state average?
Yes, so there are a lot of great charts that show how that works. Our district is, I think it's 68% of adequacy. Is that right, Ryan? 68%? Were you listening? 76, okay. I think last year we were 68, so that was Mr. Your math teacher trick. So to answer your question, so we have a comparison of what our local resources are and how that compares across the state. We also have a comparison of what per pupil expenditures look like and how that compares across the state. And we are lower than state average. We're 14,500, and different schools are a little bit above and under that. But yes, our growth is higher, our expenses are lower.
I have a couple of questions. I know it's hard to hear in the back, especially when the ice maker turns on. So first of all, thank you all for staying. Like, it's almost 9 o'clock and many of you probably get up early like me. And so first of all, thank you for that. And thank you, Christy, for reviewing all this with us as board members. That was helpful to see a lot of this. So according to the Illinois report card, 55% of Mattoon High School graduates go to college. So a couple questions that I have is that when we're at 14% in math and we're at 20% in English, I'm curious, and you laid out some of those things, like what are we doing to help students? We've had some growth this year, obviously. What are we doing specifically to help students who do have, achievement to want to do something after Mattoon High School?
Yeah, great question. So a few of the strategies I'll talk about here, and then we can send tons of resources. A lot of it's linked in the academic systems team, but a few of the strategies this year, we added ACT prep as an embedded part of the core class experience. And in the past, there was an SAT prep class that was optional. It was before school or after school. That we talked about that. And it was for some students. So not every student took advantage of it. Every student takes the ACT or takes the SAT in this instance. And so we changed some practices so it's kind of part of what every kid's experience is. And for every student, we took their PSAT results and we drilled down into what areas of growth are opportunities for each of those kids. And then we asked kids to set some goals around that. So they're interacting with their data too, so they know what's most influenceable. So if they're a 10th grader, they're looking at their 9th grade stuff and they're thinking about what from that do I need to spend more time really honing so that I can improve my score. So I think one of the biggest things we did was get really into the data and say what specific areas are weaker. And then rather than just holding that knowledge ourselves as administrators and or teachers, it was all teachers now and the students. So the students are part of that planning process as well, so they know what their academic targets are. So I think that alone is a really important strategy that we've seen some success with, and that we'll just continue to work on.
Yeah, and we obviously are all aware that we have, I think, a higher than level of poverty in Mattoon. So I think my goal, our goal, the school's goal is to how do we help all students be successful? And You know, a lot of people are saying, well, Heidi, you raise concerns and you ask questions, but what are your solutions? Well, I came today prepared with a couple solutions. And first of all, I have 2 students in high school. I have one that just graduated, and the number one complaint they have is they hate wait time. All of their friends, other parents are consistently telling me, what is the deal with wait time? What is its purpose? And I'll tell you, as a mom, it took 20 minutes out of instruction time. That's how I see it as a mom. But wait time to me, and part of my day job is I'm in 26 school districts, and study hall is an option for students. Not every student needs a study hall, but like my daughter has Class E in the morning, and then she's an athlete, so she has practice right after school, which leaves 0 time during the school day to go get assistance for her honors math class. So study hall is a viable option that takes out all kinds of barriers for children. So that means they get instruction during daytime, there's not a transportation issue, there's not a cost issue, and it's available to them. And those students who don't need a study hall, then they can choose to take a higher level math, an additional science, they get to choose what's best for them. So number one is taking out wave time and or adding a study hall is one option that I have. The second thing is, it's been, and I mentioned this when we met with the report card, that I'm surprised how short our high school day is. Our high school day is shorter approximately by 30 minutes to surrounding school districts. So I did a math, so I did some math and I was like, so what does that mean? That equates to 90 hours and 180 school day or school calendar. And so the idea that our students are missing out on instruction speaks very highly to what you've talked about tonight, whether that's, something related to math or English, but also any other subject area. So it's a concern for me about school day length of time and how do we address that so that it's a typical 8:15 to 3:15 day. Right now, students start at 8:45 and they're done at 3:15 at the high school. And so that is the second suggestion that I have, is that the short study day. And then other things, I think have been misconstrued that this is a teacher issue. Well, I'm a teacher. And at the university, there's red tape, there's policies, there's barriers that allow students to be successful. And this is not a teacher issue. I want to be super clear that my concerns have nothing to do with teachers. I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of teachers, some of you in this room, that have been incredible and really worked hard for my students, my children, the other students that I've been involved in. This is not a teacher issue. This is an administration, this is a board issue, this is a policy issue. And specifically, when we look at electronics and phone policies, when we look at the amount of time on Chromebooks, we look at discipline, homework, the policy surrounding homework, that very few students, whether they're middle school, high school, at the graduate level, they're not going to do homework that's not graded, and yet homework helps with repetition. I'm not saying that they should be penalized, but the idea that we don't have homework coupled with no final exams. So the issue that I struggle with my own children is when we don't have final exams, it's preparing them to not only take a 4-hour test, right, like the SAT, the ACT, but exams after high school. Like that comes with preparation, that comes with study habits, that comes with time management. So those to me are policies that can also help with success at the high school level. My second comment is that I too looked at some other schools and said, okay, so what's happening with similar schools that have high levels of poverty, that have chronic absenteeism? And one school that surprised me was Carbondale, and simply because it also is like us with a college town. And so what I wrote here is that Carbondale has a 59% rate of poverty, and Mattoon has 57. So when we look at that, it's very close to our rate of poverty. Their chronic absenteeism sits right where ours is. They have 33, we have 34. They have 947 students in that high school, but their math score was 28%, and their English score was 29%. And so one of the things that I've wrestled with, and I don't know the answer to this, Christy, but I liked when you said earlier, what can we do to learn and can we make calls? And there are schools that are doing a really good job, and they're mitigating some of the challenges that we have here at Mattoon. And I'm curious, like, what are they doing? How can we learn from them? There's no reason to recreate the wheel if they have great strategies or ideas. Paris 95 is a school that obviously is different than us, but their poverty rate is at 68%. So ours again is at 57, and their math is at 31%, and their English is at 50%. So again, they're doing well academically in this standardized test score arena, and what are they doing that's maybe different than ours, and what can we learn? And then my last question is for honors and dual credit kids. So I think it could help us understand that we have Matt 2 students that take honors English class, but they cannot receive the dual credit because they're not scoring high enough on the SAT, or they can't pass the AccuPlacer at Lakeland that gives them the opportunity for dual credit. So these are students that are often tracked with honors classes, and then they hit a bump their junior or senior year. And so what happened? I think that's a good question. The same thing is happening with math. So to me, and again, I try to be a critical thinker. I'm not trying to be critical about any person, but rather I see a problem and let's understand it. Let's try to think of some strategies to help all students be successful. And so if we understood what happened their junior year or their senior year, and you collect an amazing amount of data, could we through that data understand where did things, what happened for them to continue to proceed? And then when we look at remedial scores, Lakeland is giving us some of that data on the Illinois report card. What kind of data can we get from Lakeland? What are they seeing that's struggling, that's happening with students, so that we can use that resource as well? And so those are just a couple of points that I had that I've been thinking about with the report card, and just, I don't expect any answers. I'm just, you have a QR code, and I was like, I thought I'd share. I took some notes. And then my other request is that this presentation was accessible to me last night, and that it was, I've been looking because I wanted to see what the presentation was, and it showed up yesterday for me as the link. And to get the materials earlier, because I like what you said, Tim, as far as like preparing and reading through, like that's really important to me to be able to look at materials, and there's a lot of slides. And so the earlier, if we could get it on Thursday when we get the board packet, the other material, we get most of the presentations, but this one was an important one, so.
Yeah, just really quick to that point, it was up, we took it down to add some additional strategies and change a few things from school input, but I totally understand, and we appreciate the suggestions and the ideas, and we'll talk about all of that stuff, the academic systems, and during our data team, so thank you.
Christy, I remember when you gave this presentation last year. I think we were at the Lift building when you did, and the chronic absenteeism number rolled me. I mean, a lot about education is hard, but some of it's simple. And if the kid's not in the classroom, they're not learning anything. Is one of the simple tenets, it seems to me. I saw for each school you had a strategies for improvement plan that looks to me to be very well done. On the far left side had to do with attendance. It went from top to bottom. There were 3 boxes on all of them, and I don't want to pull it up. Are those cumulative? In other words, do we start and then we ramp up to the next, and then we ramp up to the next?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a series of increasing interventions based on how many absences students have. And for students who were previously chronically absent, some of those plans just are and continue, but we reset to the 3s as well. So like if I was chronically absent last year, I'm still gonna have an attendance plan, but I'm reset to 0 this year. And then at 3, I'll get, a phone call at 10 or something. We invite people for a lunch. And we have, it's relationship building, right? It's connecting and resourcing as much as possible. But yes, it's cumulative.
And it's my recollection from the academic systems teams meetings that as your team meets and you get feedback on what's working or what's not working, what may be working at Williams, what's not at Riddle, then you're making adjustments all the time to those strategies. I mean, almost like in real time.
Yes, we adjust. I don't know, how many make adjustments today? How many made a phone call today? It is every day. And yes, we make those adjustments. And as we are winning, as things are working, we adjust the threshold as well.
Finally, just my thanks and congratulations to the district team. I think it's I think it's a great report card, and it's going to get greater next year. I know it will. And a special shout out, and the name's not in there, for under it was the Riddle School Strategies Improvement Plan on the attendance. The second box on there was about someone, an employee of the school district, who bought a new bicycle tire tube and fixed a kid's tire so they could ride their bike to work. I mean, to school, excuse me. I think back, and I graduated 40 years ago, but I think back, my parents would not have let my bicycle tire go flat to miss baseball practice, much less a day of school. And I do think that speaks a little bit to some societal changes that we have seen. But whoever that was, well done.
Yeah,
Appreciate the extra
I think
mile.
that story is representative of
Williams,
a lot of unique, individual, specific planning. Kristen Kleiss has a hairdo club. She braids hair when kids come to school. I mean, there's like a lot of just really unique, specific relationship-based things like that. So we appreciate, Gail, thank you for recognizing that. And thank you everyone for your thoughtful questions.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it, isn't it? Seeing no further substantive business on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion from Erica Weaver, second. Second from Ashley Overton. Callie?
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Uphoff.
Yes.
Schneider.
Did you say me?
Yeah.
I said yes. Meeting adjourned. Hey, don't forget gymnasium. Terry Leffler.